So this course is post-operative soft guard 1 week. We place a soft guard in all patients as a preliminary quick appliance to put in to improve muscle function primarily. The Atlanta Tmd Institute is located in Atlanta, Georgia at 1640 Piedmont Ave. The Institute was formed in 2018, and we have three missions: to educate dental and medical professionals in TMD, to develop knowledge of temporomandibular disorders, and finally to successfully treat patients suffering with TMD. And this course is part of the treatment. And it's very important that the assistant who is attending to the patient knows what he or she is doing. And this is a very important video because it has to do with being professional, identifying problems, correcting problems, and just being a very, very good TMD assistant. Again, the title is Post-Operative Soft Guard 1 week course, and the subtitle is Ensuring TMD Patient Compliance for Better Treatment Success. So this visit is to see if the patient understands the program we put them on, the 6-week program, if they wore the soft guard correctly, if they did everything they're supposed to, because we want them to be successful. We want to be successful too. We're very proud that we get patients healthy. And this is absolutely one way of ensuring that patients get healthy. But so often patients put the biggest barriers in front of us, and that barrier is their own prejudices and their own preferences and continuing to do the things that are bad for their health. So combined with this particular video is the 6-week TMD program. We have a video, 6-week TMD program, yes, attacking muscle pain, the most common source of temporomandibular disorder, patient's pain. So this video tells you what's involved in the program, and you should know it. You should, if you haven't seen it, stop and go look at this video first, because it's going to give you all the details that you're going to be evaluating at the 1 week post-operative. And every single patient that we deliver a soft guard, DSG, deliver soft guard in the afternoon, every single one of these patients comes back in 1 week. Please remember this. Why? Because if you want to see how your corn's doing and you check one farmer's 6-week and one farmer's 12-week, they're going to be different. And it's hard for you to compare the two. You got to check all the farmers at the same 6-week interval to see how the corn is doing. Otherwise, you don't really have a feel for things. So look at the 6-week TMD program video. Come back to this this particular video and combine the knowledge so that you can actually do a fantastic job chairside. The soft guard therapy is taught during a course that the Institute gives to professionals. It's called TMD The Basics. And we have TMD The Basics. We have a handbook. And this is just an outline of the handbook. And you should get the handbook and read the handbook, because it gives you like lots and lots of information about potential problems that might come up, about consent forms, how to interview, all kind of stuff. And it is a good, important supplement to this video. Giving these courses is a good thing. Making the videos particularly, because I don't spend a lot of time on this particular form in courses. I just believe that here's the form, go ahead and do it. But evidently when we were updating the form the last time, we left a bunch of stuff out, right? Not just a few, a lot of things. Like if you look at what vitamins were you able to take? Well, we missed, where's D? And we keep them off of coffee, which is nicotine, and also caffeine. And recently, because a great many of the assistants don't seem to care whether they report the results to me or not, there'll be a signature, my signature, the doctor's signature at the bottom, so that the doctor will be guaranteed to review the results. because even though the TMD assistant is administering the oral history, the oral exam, screening, the doctor needs to know the results. And so often, I will go back and look at the notes, and it will say patient's not doing this, this, and this. But I worry because we have automated notes that populate the Dentrix charting module, and I'd like to know when I sign notes for sure what goes on, what happened. So again, this form's going to be updated. I hate to say that, but everything on this form is valid. There's just additional things that need to go on the form that we will be putting on the form, and you'll see those updates. But let's go on and take a good look at the rest of the things, the rest of the information in the course. And just to reiterate, make it clear, no screw ups. The assistant's supposed to be the assistant. The assistant takes charge. If the assistant sees that the front office staff are doing crazy stuff that are wrong, the TMD assistant educates them. The TMD assistant must take charge because the TMD assistant is one of the treating TMD staff, part of the team, and the front office staff don't always understand. So the 1 week TMD soft guard examination or screening exam form is filled out by the TMD assistant, not by the patient, not by the front office staff. It's by the TMD assistant. You're doing an interview, and it's a critical interview, and it's an interview that allows you to determine problems, right? Because patients very often report things inaccurately, and you need to intervene and get in there and correct them when problems occur. So it's critical that you take full, complete responsibility as the TMD assistant in charge of this patient. Do not allow the front office staff to give this form to the patient. Front office staff make mistakes, and sometimes, if you don't take charge of correcting them, they will continue to make these mistakes. And then when new front office staff come aboard, they show them the incorrect way, and they all will swear under oath in court that, oh, this is the way it's done in the Atlanta Dental Group. And it's that way because you never corrected anybody. You never said, hey, this is my responsibility. I'm the one doing this interview. I'm proud that I am a very competent TMD assistant, and this is one of my duties that I'm very proud of because Dr. Podolsky has allowed me to do this interview instead of him doing it, and he's taught me how to do it. It is technical, and I need to do this. Not the patient doesn't fill this out. Don't ever give this to the patient again. Please do not. So the first time you say don't do it anymore. And the second time you have to write this other staff member up, written, because this is a mistake. It's a big boo-boo. Don't let it happen. And the third time they're going to meet with the office manager and say, listen, if you want to continue working here, you can't be giving everything to patients. You got to know that certain things you cannot give and certain things you do give. There are restrictions to your abilities of what you're able to do here. Please don't do that. All right? So always correct the front office staff when they screw up and accidentally give the 1 week TMD soft guard form to the patient. Right? And if they do, rip it up and start over because patients lie and you're going to see it when you do your interviewing. Noncompliance is the #1 reason for treatment failure. Physicians know this. They know this. Dentists, they think everything's hunky-dory and no problem, but they're not. It's not. So this is not okay. Giving the form to the patient is not okay. This is a form that's used for an interview by a trained TMD assistant for a patient who's worn a soft guard for 1 week. So as I've stated, the most common reason for TMD treatment failure is failure of our TMD patients to follow directions. This is called compliance, right? This is officially called patient non-compliance when they don't comply. They don't comply with your orders and your instructions, and you lovingly teach them how to be healthy, and they decide they want to continue to be unhealthy because that's how they've been all their life, and they don't want to stop their coffee, and they don't want to take any healthy pills that might help them with deficiencies that they have. They don't want to do any of this, and they can be crazy. And so we want to correct them, we want to educate them, we want to show them that we're serious, and that's why the assistant does this interview, because the assistant is concerned and involved, whereas a front office person may not be. A front office person does not follow the treatment of this particular patient, right? So not doing what they're supposed to is officially called patient noncompliance. Since you know this, since you know that physicians know that most people don't comply, you must do everything you can to encourage and coach your patients so that they will do the right things to get well. You should care about how well your patient is doing. If you don't believe it's your patient and you believe, oh, it's Dr. Podolsky's patient, not my patient, it's not your baby, then really you shouldn't be working in this field. And I really believe this. I mean, you should be concerned. I am. I don't feel good when I don't get people healthy. And so you must get involved. You must correct problems. You must re-educate the patient. And a lot of times when they non-comply, it's because they really don't understand how serious it is. And then when you show that you're concerned that they didn't comply, they're going to say, okay, well, maybe this is important and I will comply because I'm not coming back here next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and getting told that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And one of the things that I feel is really, really important, I love my patients. I really want to help people. I get excited and I feel rewarded when patients get better. But this is a real world. People get married and get divorced. People kill other people. Bad things happen in this world. It is not a la wonderful world. And this is one reason why many dentists do not want to treat TMD patients, because some TMD patients are crazy, but most of them are not. Most of them act weird because they're in pain all the time. So the unfortunate thing about noncompliance is that our patients blame you and me, and they blame the dentist, me, for treatment failure when it's really their faults. And we need to make sure they understand. When you don't comply, you're setting yourself up for failure. That has nothing to do with Dr. Podolsky or the Atlanta Tmd Institute. That's you not wanting to get better. You not wanting to change and improve your health. How do we protect the dentist and the TMD assistant from unfair attacks by patients that don't comply? This is the issue here, and this is one of the main reasons that you are doing this interview, because you don't want them slippy slide and do poorly. You want them to do well. So the answer to protection is you can't change patients. They have natural tendencies, natural attitudes. They are who they are. And some of them are unkind by their very nature. It's sad. Very nicely, it's a minority. However, the way you protect yourself and protect the doctor, protect the office is by documenting. This means going into the Dentrix clinical notes through the charting module and documenting every single compliance failure. This is extremely important. I cannot overemphasize how important it is because people come back later and they make statements that are very unkind and untrue. And most of the time, fortunately, it is unkind and untrue. But we need to say, hey, listen now, you haven't been doing this and this. Well, gee, I have to have my coffee. And of course, that just disturbs their sleep, causes gastric regurgitation. They feel miserable. They ache everywhere. Their stomach burns. But they won't stop because they're addicts. And we can't change that if they can't change it. The least we can do, however, to protect ourselves is to write into the chart what exactly they failed to do This is not a slippy, slidey, easy thing. It's a really, really important thing to do. So each thing that the patient didn't do must be documented, written into the patient's Dentrix charting patient notes, it's Dentrix charting module patient notes. Extremely important. So I have been lucky, or or perhaps blessed, because I've never been personally sued for malpractice. And that's perhaps because I was for quite some time involved in malpractice defense. I actually assisted dentists in claims against them. And I saw some crazy stuff. I saw a very religious person offer his minister free care, and the minister chose to give it to his wife, and it was an accident, and the wife actually sued the doctor who was giving free care. It's just, there's all crazy stuff in the world, right? So many TMD assistants believe that because they have a good relationship and they enjoy the TMD patient, that the TMD patient will never ever sue the dentist or accuse the TMD assistant of any wrongdoing. And these TMD assistants are really shocked, blown off their feet when the patient becomes vicious. And that's crazy to believe that. People fall in love, they get married, they have sex, they have children, they start fighting, and then they divorce. These are people that said, I do forever. Now, these same people that loved each other want their ex-spouse to die. And this happens. You hear it. You see it. So never, ever say, geez Louise, this patient loves me. I would never get into trouble with this patient. Don't do that. Treat everyone the same. Don't prejudge people. Try to always just assume that this patient may later have a misunderstanding and get mad. You just don't know. So make sure that everything is documented well. And ultimately, the ultimate reason you're doing it too is to get the patient healthy. So if they don't want to get healthy because they have bad habits and they don't want to comply with instructions, then we need to show this, because that's not our fault. We can't be perfect if we're working with others who are not perfect. So please understand, your feelings may not have anything to do ultimately with future things that might happen. The 1 week POSG1 interview, in other words, it's the DSG was 1 week ago, Deliver Soft Carb was 1 week ago, and it's one because it's a POSG1. We have a POSG6, which we do with patients who do not have TMD, but who need a soft guard. That's unusual, but here at the Institute, this appliance is provided to patients who are starting TMD care. So the 1 week POSG1 interview is an important appointment and sets the future tone of the doctor-patient relationship, or the TMD assistant-patient relationship. We're supposed to treat people appropriately, and not all people are the same. You can't treat everybody the same. They say with children, some people need more discipline and some people less. Depends on the child. And that's true also. You can take a very bad acting child and given some discipline will sometimes respond extremely well. Essentially, this is what we're doing. We're teaching the TMD patient what the relationship is, and that you, the TMD assistant, is the guiding practitioner with the TMD dentist, and that they have to comply. You are watching them, and you want them to comply because you want them to be healthy, and they see it. And so they know they're not going to get away with anything. So there's going to be a better chance of compliance because of your concern. So if the TMD patient knows that she is not going to get away with failing to follow instructions, this patient will most probably make a greater effort to comply with your instructions, because you're showing that you care about this, and you're showing you're following up about it. You're not forgetting, right? So it must be important if you're not forgetting. And the patient gets that feeling and starts understanding that your instructions and my instructions are important. I really don't want to get too negative. I want you to remember that you're a healer. That's your primary job. So the most important thing is to coach this patient into complying with the dentist's instructions. You want the patient to get better. Your greatest hope should always be that your patient, you're taking care of this person. This is your patient, not the dentist patient, not the institute patient. It is your patient. You want your patient to get better. The POSG1 appointment, 1 week after delivery of SoftGuard, is almost always scheduled combined with the TMD jaw relations appointment, and there is a video on jaw relations. So you want to look at that later. But the actual appointment that's scheduled is dual, two things. So when you write it on the description of the appointment, in the title of the description, in the appointment dialog box, you put two things, POSG1/JRT. Now, how do you know if we're doing a JRT? That's if we got an upper and lower alginate of the patient, we can do a POSG1 and a JRT. Sometimes we get so slammed, we only take a lower impression, we deliver the SoftGuard. It would be very good to get an upper impression at that second visit, but we very often can't. We're rushing around. And then the patient comes back at the third visit, we're taking an upper impression. Ideally, the opposing impression can be taken by anybody, any of the staff that can do it. We really want to do our very best to get that upper impression. But in most cases, we have the upper and lower impressions taken at the first visit, or certainly by the second visit, so that after we've delivered the SoftGuard in 1 week later, we're going to do POSG1, JRT. Do not schedule the JRT if we don't have both of the models. You look in this is crazy. So you pull the models the day before. Recently, my staff decided they didn't want to do that anymore, and that's true. It's crazy. It makes me want to cry. I'm almost ready to cry right now. You teach, and then people slip into mediocrity. But anyhow, if we don't have the upper and lower models, we can't do a JRT. So when you're looking at the appointment tomorrow in the morning meeting, the dental assistant morning meeting at 7:45, you want to make sure that both of the models are there so we can do a JRT. If there is no second model, that's a POSG/DXC upper. DXC upper means the diagnostic cast upper. Now, inexperienced TMD assistants often screw up. They do. And unfortunately, we're all supposed to follow up and watch each other. But inexperienced TMD assistants often screw up, and they believe that they do not have to do the POSG1 interview. So we'll have this combined appointment POSG1/JRT. They're doing the JRT, and they never do the interview. And they never found out this patient doesn't follow any directions. And very possibly, when we do the hard guard, the mandibular orthopedic repositioning appliance, the patient's not going to wear it, they're not going to comply, and we never even set the relationship with the patient. This POSG interview is important. So again, inexperienced TMD assistants often screw up and believe that they do not have to do a POSG1 interview at the JRT appointment because they are doing the JRT. Obviously, doctor, the JRT is important. We can't make the mandibular orthopedic repositioning appliance if we don't have the JRT, doctor. But you're supposed to do that POSG1 interview also, because that is how we're going to set the tone of our relationship. We're going to find out if the patient's going to comply. We need to manage this patient. And in order to manage the patient, we need to know how the patient's doing, what they're doing, and what kind of compliance we've got. But no, you must do the POSG interview. the TMD assistant must do a POSG1 interview for all TMD patients after 1 week of soft guard wear. All TMD patients get a POSG1 interview after their first week of soft guard wear, and it must be at 1 week. Please understand, it must be at 1 week because we compare all of our patients at 1 week. And I indicated that, when we grow corn, if you look at corn at 6 weeks and 12 weeks, it's hard to make comparison if you've got 3 or 4 different fields because you're looking at them at different dates. But if you look at them all at the same number of weeks, you can compare how the different crops are growing in the different fields. So again, the purpose of the POSG1 interview is to determine if the patient is following directions and being compliant. If the patient is not compliant, then this problem, the noncompliance, must be documented to show the patient's lawyer and the judge in the malpractice suit that this patient is the cause of the problems, not you and not your doctor. I'm exaggerating and talking about a malpractice suit, and I've never had one. God forbid I get one, knock on wood. But you need to be serious about this stuff. This is serious stuff. It's you have to understand that you're in a legal relationship, doctor-patient relationship, and you need to be concerned, but you need to document. You also want the TMD patient to comply, so this patient will have a better chance of doing well and later bragging on you being the best TMD assistant they've ever seen, right? And part of that is when you catch them and correct them and keep them corrected, they eventually thank you for it. Isn't that crazy? They may argue, be sarcastic when you catch them. Right, they may be. But later when we're done and they're healthy, most of them say thank you. Just going to tell you a few things that are very important. If you want positive feedback and you want people to love you, just remember, a non-compliant patient will not brag that you're a great dental assistant. You're not going to get them saying you're the greatest assistant in the world. They're going to say, this treatment sucks. This doesn't work. You didn't do good. You didn't tell me what to do. You're a bad dental assistant, right? We always see this a lot with workman's compensation patients and patients that are in lawsuits against other people. A non-compliant patient often blames others for what the patient failed to do. This is true. And so you have to understand the reality. Yeah, I'm banging on it a whole bunch. So we're going to be diving into the 1 week TMD soft guard examination form. It's a form, so it's hard for you to forget. It's hard for you to miss things, even though there was a major mistake in the form, which you'll see. I'm pointing it out to you. And you'll have to write in the vitamin D, because evidently when we transferred onto the new current form, we forgot to put vitamin D in there. Don't know why. I just the way life is. But let's continue. So I've cut off the top part of the form and blew it up a little bit so you can see it better. You have the patient's name, today's date. That shows you how many days have gone by since DSG. And then your initials, TMD assistant, you did this interview. We want to know that you did it. Don't leave that blank. Don't do that. How are you doing? You ask the patient, well, how are you doing, Mrs. Jones? And then you put down the patient's comment. Were you able to wear the soft guard? Why was it difficult to wear the soft guard? Have your headaches decreased? Are you sleeping well? What vitamins were you able to take? What minerals were you able to take? And when did you take those minerals? How much water were you able to drink? What type of exercise were you able to do? How long were you able to exercise? Were you able to stay off of coffee? And you could probably even do better than me. I'm trying to, without threat, ask questions so they'll report to me the truth. Because if they feel threatened, they're going to lie to you just to get you off of their back. And so there's whole bunches of ways of wording questions so they're not threatening, and they'll tell you the truth. And when you see the results, you document the results, and you also correct the patient and show that you did. So a lot of times I'll see in the notes the assistant doing it doesn't bother to show me the form. That is like ridiculous. You're supposed to bring the form to me after you've done it. B, inside the notes, the assistant doesn't write clear notes and just says, patient complied, and then I go back in. I talk to the patient, they didn't. Or, patient failed to do this, this, and this, but they don't put down that they re-educated them on the importance of it, you see, because it doesn't show that they're very caring, that the assistant's not caring. But we're going to go through this form and each one of the questions and give you an approach to this interview. So this is easy. The title, 1 week TMD soft guard exam form. It's done 1 week after this DASG. Patient name is block printed, not scribbled, not italic. It's block printed. The date of the interview, these forms are supposed to be done the day before. The date of the interview needs to be put in there. And of course, later, if a lawyer asks, we want to know who the TMD assistant was. Who was it? You? Did you put your initials in there? Or even if it isn't, or if it's me and I want to see, they haven't been complying, and I find out later you didn't give a flying butt about this patient, and you saw they weren't complying, you never educated them, you never followed up, you didn't care, and now I'm working with you. This is bad news. You're bad news, and I want top-notch professionals. I want people that care. And you need to make sure that you're proud about everything you do and do it all right. So it's simple as this, where it says TMD assistant, put your initials. Make sure we know who you are. Full initials. Throughout this whole examination, this POSG1 examination, oral interview, you must make the patient feel very comfortable and not threatened. The patient will give you truthful answers. Don't threaten, don't criticize. When they say, well, gee, no, I couldn't stop my coffee. You idiot! What's the matter with you? Why didn't you do that? We told you not to do that. That's crazy. So if they say they didn't do something, withdraw any of your comments. Don't withdraw them, just don't make them. And go through the whole form first and ask questions. Don't make comments as you're doing the interview. You must do all of the corrections after the interview is complete. Very important. Very, very important. If the patient feels threatened and criticized, the patient will become very defensive and the patient will not answer truthfully for fear of you getting mad. Doing a really, really good medical oral interview, TMD interview, isn't a talent, right? And you get better as you have more and more experience. But you learn ways to get truth out of the patient. And I mean, one of the first things is patients don't want to be criticized. They don't want to be yelled at. So just avoid asking yes or no questions because they know what the right answer is and they just say no or yes depending on what they think you want. It's too easy for the patient to blow you off with a yes or no question, with yes or no questions. The patient will just say yes or no depending on what they think you want to hear. That's true. And you're like, come on, Dr. Podolsky, they're going to answer my question. They'll answer it, but that doesn't mean it's going to be truthful. And they think it's white lies, right? White lies are, things you say to people that may not be true to make the people feel good. So patients will do this. So the first thing is an assessment overall how the patient's feeling and doing. And you ask, well, hey, Mrs. Jones, glad to see you today. How do you? I'm just going to ask a few questions. How are you doing? How has your first week been? And are you better, much better, the same, worse, or much worse? How are you doing? And they answer you, and you, the TMD assistant, circles one of these 5 answers. And then if the patient makes a very positive comment, put the comment in. If the patient makes a very negative comment, put the negative comment in. This is important. We're going to document the truth. If they made a negative comment, we want a negative comment put in there. We're not trying to protect ourselves by lying or avoiding things because we want the patient to get better. So first thing you ask the patient, well, how are you doing? And circle one of these answers. So I keep on repeating and hitting on these important concepts because I want you to get them. The TMD assistant must clearly print on this document, on this examination form. And even when you're signing your name, at the top, you must clearly print, not sign his or her name, your name on the top. So at the top, it's a initials, clearly printed. You are a witness to the event. You are the oral interviewer. You did it. You want to have it in a record, right? The TMD assistant is a witness and may later be called to court to testify in front of a judge and a jury. That's never happened to me, but guess what? That could. And because it could, you need to be expert and wonderful and look like you know what you're doing because you care. And so be aware that what you write all over this form might be looked at by somebody that may be judging you. So please be accurate. Did you exaggerate about what you wrote on the form? I mean, are you like being weird and over exaggerating what the patient is saying? Right? You have to be able to say, no, I did not exaggerate. This is what the patient told me. I'm just documenting what the patient told me. I don't exaggerate anything because you're the witness. Be an accurate, dependable, believable witness. So just for your information, if people are doing well, we don't get bent out of shape, but if people are not doing well, we get bent out of shape. We do. So all patients who have you circle same, worse, or much worse must be carefully investigated for noncompliance. And this is what you are doing. Got it? Right now, this is your job. So they say, no, I'm not doing so good. And then you find out that they didn't exercise, they didn't go to bed on time, they're only getting 5 hours of sleep, or they're not taking the vitamins. You ask questions to see what's going on. You find out later they didn't do much of anything they were supposed to do. But then they're complaining. And it's because of their poor lifestyle and their failure to comply. But the first thing we look at, since it's the most common reason for failure, is compliance. So if they report same, worse, and much worse, I'm coming into that operatory and I'm going to try to figure things out. I'm going to use all my brain power, my intellectual power, my caring and loving attitude to figure out what is going on and correct it right then. Got it? But the number one reason for failure is noncompliance. You're going to figure that one out. That's what you're doing during this interview. You will soon find out that patients who have a lawyer and are beginning a lawsuit against someone else, let's say someone that hit them in a car or they slipped in Walmart or whatever they might have done, they almost always report that they're worse. So, we need to look at that too. And they have all these negative things, and we sit and interview at finding out why they're worse. And you find out, yep, they've got a lawsuit. Yep, they didn't tell you. It's a workman's compensation case. And these people can't get better because they're not going to win their cases. They can't win a large cash settlement court case if they're getting better. So they're going to put everything worse. They're just really, really negative. And the last one that I had gave me incredible amounts of trouble. She was in a lawsuit in an automobile accident where she got hit. And she just gave me conniptions. Just remember that. So we have to look into why someone says they're worse or much worse, and also if they say they're the same. And as I said earlier, patients who have a lawyer and have a workman's compensation case almost always report that they're worse. They're getting their full salary by staying home at part of the workman's, plus they're getting treated medically. It's a big cakewalk. It is just a holiday, paid holiday. And they don't want to go back to work very often. This is true. And they get nuts. You don't want to get me started. You want to listen to me sometime about some of these cases, I'm happy to talk to you, but it is the most amazing thing. And how they get so much better when their case is done. They can't continue to receive workman's compensation benefits if they're getting better. You know, the caseworker is going to say, you're supposed to go back to work because you're better. They say, no, I'm not better. I'm not better. I'm not better. I still want to stay home and get paid full salary. A couple of times a year, we get patients that have something called buyer's remorse. It's like when you buy something and then later you say, I shouldn't have bought this. Oh my God, I'm going to bring this automobile back. And they have buyer's remorse. They're unhappy that they chose to go ahead with the TMD treatment. My viewpoint is I wouldn't have offered it to them if I didn't believe it was going to change their lives. And that's true. So I want to get them to do that which is very best for them. And that's my viewpoint, isn't it? So some patients with buyer's remorse will always report that they are same or worse. Sometimes they won't even tell you they don't want to continue. They will continue, but they're going to sit and whine. And this is just a sad thing. So how do we prevent this? How do we, take care of this? We make the patients better. So they're like much better and they're very happy. So patients with buyer's remorse want all their money back and they think that reporting bad results and complaining all the time will get them a refund. We had one person, this is a true story, university professor, female. She came in, she couldn't open. And I'm telling Ted, she couldn't open to put any food, even maybe one finger could go in there. And I personally placed heat on, massaged, worked with her until she could get open about 25 millimeters so I can get a lower impression. Took the impression, poured it up personally, made the soft guard personally that day as soon as possible to get it in. We're talking like exceptional caring and love. And then got her back in a week, and I knew the hard guard, the Mora, is much better for joint problems. So get this, she comes in a week later in the morning. She's opening a little bit better. We can get her upper. We take the jaw relations, and I make that appliance that day. I'm talking about incredible service, customer service, patient service, caring and lovingness, everything. And so she wears the appliance immediately, and she comes back in 2 weeks, and she's opening now about 30, which is below normal, but she's getting better. And then she cancels her 6-week follow-up and comes in about 8 weeks, and she is opening completely normal, 40 to 50. And she says, that stupid appliance caused me to have a reaction, and I couldn't wear it, and I want all my money back. And she, of course, she's opening and closing normally. She's talking normally. She doesn't have any pain, right? But she doesn't believe that I deserve anything. And this is sad. We are seeing this disconnect between fellow human beings right now. And yeah, I'm telling you this crazy story because it's real. And I'm wanting you to understand we love our patients, we care about our patients, but our patients sometimes do things that are a little bit crazy. And we want to protect ourselves, our reputations. And this is what happens. All right. So your job is to make these patients incredibly better so they become happy and healthy and they no longer regret anything. But even with making them happy and healthy, they sometimes regret things. So this is just the way it is. We have to understand it. And you know what? It's part of dealing with the patient population. It's like cardiac surgeons know that a certain number of their patients are going to die on the table. It's just the way it is. That's the reality. And we know that a certain number of our patients are going to be unkind. And it's just a sad reality. And I don't want it to be like that, but it is. So I have to recognize it. So the first real question, the answer is they're supposed to wear it full time except for eating. You know that, right? And you're putting yes or no, but you're not asking it like a yes or no question. You have to kind of, work into it. And basically the question is, were you able to wear the soft guard? And that's a yes or no question, which is bad because they're going to say yes. So you might say, well, how often were you able to wear the soft guard? How often were you able to wear the soft guard? Well, then if they say, I couldn't wear it all the time, then you say, well, why was it difficult to wear that soft guard? What are the things, what are the factors that caused you not to be able to wear the soft guard so that we can uh, uh, evaluate how to improve this patient's situation so they can wear it. So the correct answer to how much were you able to wear the soft guard, the correct answer is, yeah, I wore my soft guard 24/7 except for eating. Got it? And find out if they're taking it out during the week, like while they're working. Because some of them say, well, no, I talk a lot, so I take it out all the time. Sometimes I forget to put it back in. Uh, no, I eat dinner and then very often I just forget to put it back in. Try to get these, or what they call originations and things that they're telling you so we can document what's going on and correct the problem. So when you get the answer that, they weren't wearing it 24/7, you ask, well, why was it difficult to wear the soft guard? And they say, well, it wasn't difficult, I just didn't wear it. I mean, we want to find out what the barriers were to them wearing it and trying to work out those barriers to make it easier for them to wear it. And then later, not now, please, later, not now, not now, not now, list some suggestions to assist and motivate the patient to wear the soft guard full time. So please do not make this statement when you're doing the questioning, because they're going to get an idea that you're looking for their noncompliance. So don't list suggestions now, but I'm putting it in your head that as you talk to the patient, they're going to give you certain problems, and then you're going to want in your head to solve those problems at the end of the interview, not now. So I'm beating this point home over and over and over and over again. You'll finally get it, I hope. So how much were you able to wear the soft guard? So the wrong answer that the patient can make is anything else besides wearing it 24/7. Please do not criticize and do not correct the patient at this time. Keep any disapproval a secret until the end of the interview, or you will just destroy your relationship and there will not be a truthful answer in the whole set. And you will be the dum-dum that created the situation where the patient felt it was a toxic environment, that you were highly critical and that you didn't approve of the patient. Don't do that. So once the patient says that they weren't wearing it 24/7, they were taking it out during work, or they were taking it out in the evening, or they just weren't wearing it. In the Dentrix charting clinical notes, you put patient failed to wear the soft guard full-time as instructed, reviewed the importance of full-time wear, and how this unloads the damaged joints. Please memorize this, write it 100 times. Please, please, you need to put this in. It is the truth. The truth will set you free. Don't modify the truth. You are here to document what's going on and to later correct what's going on so the patient gets better. That's what you do. So the next question is a yes or no question, but have your headaches decreased? And we ask this because most TMD patients do have headaches. It is probably one of the most common symptoms of TMD. So we ask them, have your headaches decreased? And this can be a yes or no answer. The soft guard can be very helpful if the patient complies with all the requirements of the 6-week program. They get off of that, they drink a lot of water, and they're hydrated, and they stay off of the coffee so that they are not strung up. They will do better. But not everybody does get better on the soft guard program. The purpose of the soft guard program is to unload the joints and relax the muscles. Very often we call the soft guard a muscle relaxation appliance. However, if this patient does have a bad joint, only the hard guard or the mora will be effective. And you reassure the patient and say, listen, this is a muscle thing and you have a joint problem, internal joint problem, the next appliance is going to be the thing that's going to do the trick, and I will try my hardest to get that more into you as soon as we can. So if the patient says, no, my headaches have not decreased, then reassure the patient that the hard guard is the real TMD appliance, and you're going to do everything you can to get that hard guard in as soon as you can for this patient because you love the patient. So we're just continuing, and we're looking at the overall response of the patient, not specific compliance, but overall response. How did they do? Are you sleeping well? Because sleep is critical to health, and it's one of the things very often starts being restored as we treat our patients. So we're just asking. Well, just like the previous question, this can be yes or no. The soft guard can be very helpful if the patient complies with all of the 6-week program. This often happens because the patient's lower jaw falls back into the patient's ear. So as the lower jaw goes back, it hurts the ear, it wakes the patient up. In 6 weeks, the dentist will determine if the patient needs a modified FARA. That's a sleep appliance. It's a modification, a change from the original upper FARA appliance. If the patient says, no, their sleep hasn't improved, then I reassure the patient that the hard guard is the real TMD appliance, and the patient may later need a TMD sleeping appliance. It's not a sleep apnea appliance, it is a TMD sleeping appliance, but we're looking to see if the patient's sleep has improved. If the patient says no, that their sleep has not improved, no problem. You can also go to commonly asked questions and print out the sleep hygiene handout. Sleep hygiene is all the things that you can do to improve your sleep, like creating a pitch dark environment, weighted blanket. There's several other things that may assist the patient. But if the patient's in pain, that's going to be a sleep disturber, no matter what. But you can give the sleep hygiene handout to them at this point to try to get their mind on improving sleep. So the next question is getting into compliance with the 6-week Tmd program. And we specifically asked the patient to take 3 vitamins, C, E, and D. And if they're taking it, they know the names of the vitamins. They have to open the bottles and look at the bottle, and they should know the names. So you don't say, were you taking your vitamin C? Were you taking your vitamin E? Were you taking your vitamin D? No, you ask them, well, were you able to take any vitamins? What vitamins were you able to take? Were you able to do it or not able to do it? What's the situation? You're very non-threateningly asked. They should know the 3 vitamins. They bought the bottles, they're taking them, they should know them. It is a very bad sign if they say, oh yeah, I took all the ones I was supposed to take. And then when you get into, well, how are you taking them? Very often they can't even answer that because they didn't, right? They did not. Do not ever ask, did you take your vitamin C? Did you take your vitamin E? Did you take your vitamin D? Don't ask that. Say nothing when you're doing this interview. Ask the question, what vitamins were you able to take? And say nothing. Shut up. Watch the patient, watch their face, see what's going on. If the patient was taking these 3 vitamins each day, that patient should be able to tell you quickly without hesitating because they're doing that, what vitamins she was taking. She's going to be able to tell you that because she's doing it every day. So notice that we don't name the vitamins and we don't name the minerals. They should know it. Please, they should know it. If they don't, that's a really bad sign. Please. So you ask the patient, what minerals were you able to take? And you don't make comments about the vitamins. If you say what vitamins were you able to take and they can't tell you, you don't go back and educate them at that point. Don't even do that. So, okay, great. So what minerals were you able to take? And you're avoiding confrontation. And they should know that there's only 1 pill with 3 minerals in it that's taken 3 times a day, 1 with every meal. That's the correct answer. And that is what is in the handout we gave them. And that is when we delivered the soft guard, the TMD assistant, lovingly, caringly went over that 6-week program handout with the patient, step by step, ensuring that that patient knew everything, because they have to know everything in order to do everything correctly. Not everybody's going to read the thing, but you just say, what minerals will you be able to take? And the correct answer would be calcium, magnesium, zinc. And when did you take them? Well, I took them one with every meal. And if they didn't do that, they're going to poop the things out, because you don't absorb calcium, magnesium very easily. So you've got to do it 3 times a day, because you get 40% with the first one and another 40% with the second. That's 80%. And then the third one, you take it again and you get another 40%. Now you get 120% of what you need. You got extra because you're taking it a lot. Got it? And we're overcoming the absorption problem. Next thing is hydration. And it's like, you say, how much water were you able to drink? Were you able to get much water? Were you able to get much water? Were you able to take in much water? And they should tell you, yeah, I took 6 to 8 glasses a day. And sometimes, you're questioning their validity, and you just saying, well, how did you drink it? Where did you drink it? When did you drink it? And if they can't, they take a lot of time to think about it. They probably didn't do it. Some people say, well, no, I fill up a gallon jug, and I drink that jug throughout the day. That's an easy, wonderful answer. Or I drank 3 bottles of the quarts. They'll come up with some specific answers, or they'll give you, well, I drink one when I get up. I drink an 8-ounce glass when I get up, 8-ounce glass when I at lunch. I take an 8-ounce glass with dinner, and I take an 8-ounce glass when I go to bed. That's 4. And then you say, well, what about the other 2? So you basically, but you're not going to do this right now. I keep on reiterating, you're thinking, but you're not going to do this right now. You're not going to get into questioning or criticizing. You're just asking questions. Socrates never said things. He asked questions and led you to your own conclusions, right? Don't only ask questions at this phase. Later, you're going to do education. Now, you're just making a non-threatening environment where they're going to be truthful to you and answer to you correctly. How much water were you able to drink? Were you able to get much water? So water is super critical. Water is life. Water is really important. A lot of our patients are mouth breathers, and they dehydrate because their moisture is going right out of their mouth, especially at night. They need water. So if the patient failed to drink adequate water, 6 to 8 glasses, you now need to be very careful and document this in the patient's Dentrix charting module and the patient notes. Patient did not drink 6 to 8 glasses of water each day to fully hydrate herself or himself. This is documentation. You're writing down proof of what went on, and you're showing that this patient doesn't listen, and that's why the patient's sick. Sometimes simply giving them adequate water, right? Just adequate water and a little exercise, and they get better, right? Oh my Lord. So simple solutions, but very often they're so resistant. Again, these suggestions are given later, after. You got to complete the interview with no threats or criticisms or corrections at all. You do all of the corrections later in a loving, caring manner. You don't get them upset. That's not your responsibility. That's not your goal. You're to educate, motivate them like your child. You want your child to grow up successful. You want this patient to do well. But some suggestions for that we'll give later is, well, fill up a quart bottle with water and sip on the water throughout the day. Some people say, well, I got to have special water, and I'm like, any water is better than no water. That's for sure. Mineral water is okay. Tap water, okay. Fill it up. When I go to the gym, I fill up my quart bottle with tap water, right there, and I drink it, right. Next thing is put some lemon juice or some watermelon in the water. Like you can actually, there are these little plastic containers that you can put out, and you put like a little bit of watermelon in it with the regular water and let it sit. And then that taste of the watermelon gets into the water and gives you a nice little taste. I think the watermelon's better than the lemon juice. Lemon juice sometimes will get my personal stomach irritated. So I don't like it, but most people can tolerate it nicely. Probably going to be changing some of these questions because even this, I think, like says, what type of exercise were you able to do? I would probably say more like, well, were you able to do any exercise? Did your schedule permit you to do any exercise? That's a little less threatening. And what types we want aerobic, which is walking, bicycling, running, or swimming. So listen and let the patient tell you what type of exercise she's been doing and if she likes it, right? And then you say, well, how long were you able to exercise? And the correct answer is 1 hour each day. And the patient can split it up to 2 half-hour segments, 3 20-minute segments. And it doesn't have to be heavy. Walking is fine. I really like walking a great deal. So, just ask, were you able to get any exercise? And don't, if they say no, just go on to the next question. If they say, yeah, I got it, I got some. So what were you doing? Oh, I was bicycling. Well, how much? 1 half hour every other day. Well, that's the incorrect answer, right? But don't say anything. Go back later and then document on this form. You're going to scan this form later as proof of noncompliance, and you're going to try to correct the problem. The next question is important. Were you able to stay off of coffee? How did staying off of coffee go? How did staying off of coffee go? Were you able to eliminate coffee? And the correct answer should be yes. Yeah, they might have a headache. They'll have caffeine withdrawal, headache. But caffeine for sick people is bad. Normal people, it's tolerable with this in a small amount. But you've got to be very careful. Again, were you able to stay off of coffee? Were you able to not drink coffee? These are, basically looking to see if they say yes or no. So there you go. That was the top of the form, which was the assessment, your interview. You're looking to see if the patient complied with all instructions. You're looking to see if the patient felt better, slept better. You're just basically talking and chilling out with the patient, asking questions and not saying anything. So your requirement now, after you're done with the interview with the patient, is to fill out the bottom part of this form. And did patient complied with all instructions? You want to say yes. And if you say yes, you're not going to put any check marks in the other where it says patient failed to comply with the following program instructions. If you say yes, they did it all because you're saying they comply with all. If any one of the bottom ones were not complied with, you're going to say no on the patient complied with all instructions. So if they say, no, I couldn't eliminate coffee, you would have to say patient complied with all instructions, no, because they didn't stop coffee. Or they can't tell you what minerals they gave you, they took. And that's no. And you check the minerals. So it tells you what the problem was that you found, you diagnosed. That is what you're going to do. And I need to change this form around slightly to show that you caringly and lovingly went over all of the corrections, that you express to the patient why each one of these items is important to their health. This is where you should go back and look at the 6-week program video and read the 6-week program handout and fully understand what's going on. So then it says patient instructed to continue full-time wear for 1 more week. And that is always a yes on TMD patients. I'm going to say whether they said yes, they comply with everything, or no, they didn't comply with everything, doesn't matter. TMD patients, which is what we're using it at the Atlanta Tmd Institute for, that is yes, 1 more week. We're hoping to get the MORA, the mandibular orthopedic repositioning appliance, into that patient within 2 weeks. That's our goal. We've been very busy and short-staffed because of the COVID stuff, and so we're about to recover, and we want to get these appliances in quickly. And on let's say a regular patient, we make a lot of dentists just make these appliances for people that grind or have minor problems, then in those cases, outside of the Atlanta Tmd Institute, without full-blown TMD cases, they're going to progress on to nighttime wear. So let me differ two things. A, Atlanta Tmd Institute patient, almost always full care. No, they're going to wear their soft guard 24/7 until they get their hard guard. Patients who are not Atlanta Tmd Institute patients, they are regular dental patients. Some of the people that took our courses, they wore the soft guard for the first week. They complied with everything. They're going to go on to, and they're doing really well. They go on to nighttime wear so that and then they come back again in 6 weeks. And if, at 6 weeks of doing great, they don't need to come to this institute, or they don't need to progress on to hard guard. Or the dentist, if we teach him how to make a hard guard, he would progress on to the hard guard if after 6 weeks the patient didn't do well. Hope I'm not confusing you. I hope I'm not confusing you. So we're going to go over this in a little more detail. Here we go. I think this first question is dumb obvious. You know, we have about 6 things, 7 things, 8 things that they're supposed to do. And did they do them? And if they say no, they didn't do it, or you find out that they didn't on even one, you must put no. However, if they perfectly answer everything and did everything they were supposed to, regardless of how they feel today, if they did everything they were supposed to, you say, yes, they complied with all the instructions. So, you know, you've done the interview, now you're filling this out, and then you're going to go back and educate the patient. But you now need to show whoever's looking at this form, or me, please, me, what they didn't do. Well, they didn't do the 24/7 where they were taking out during the day. They didn't do any exercise. I said, well, I do a lot of walking around my job. No, that's not exercise. Minerals, they didn't take the calcium, magnesium, and zinc. Vitamins, they didn't take the adequate doses of D, E, and C. They'll sometimes tell you, well, I have a multivitamin. It doesn't have nearly as much as they need. And you have to explain that. That's the most common answer. Did they get 8 hours of sleep? You know, did they get to bed at 10, wake up at 6? Did they put 8 hours of time in the bed away? No reading, no lights. Did they do that? Next thing is 3 meals a day. And did they drink adequate water? And did they eliminate coffee and nicotine from their diets? Now, the next thing you're done, you've reviewed everything, you've documented all the failures, you have not criticized the patient. Now you go back and you educate that patient. You say, well, Mrs. Jones, the water is so critical because it hydrates your muscles and takes your waste products away, and you have to stay hydrated. Both your mouth will get dry, your eyes will get dry, everything in your body will get dry. Mrs. Jones, that coffee that you've been drinking, it causes you to shake. You can put your hands out and see you're still shaking. You need to get away from it. Maybe go to decaf. Whatever your suggestions are, each one of the ones she failed to comply with, you must make a response to those specific failures. Again, this requires that you go back and look at the 6-week program and be sure that you know all the different things. It's quite obvious as I'm doing this video that several things are missing, like the nicotine. We don't allow them to smoke. That wasn't in this assessment. Isn't that crazy? And the vitamin D. So when we were updating things, there were little mistakes, and we'll fix them. But the purpose of this video is to give you the skills to evaluate the form. And as we update this form, you'll be able to quickly update your skills. The TMD assistant then documents in the patient notes in the dentric starting module that the patient failed to comply with, and then write out each failure in this line. Failed to comply with drinking enough water. Failed to comply with getting an hour exercise. Failed to comply with taking the calcium, magnesium, and zinc. Whatever it might be that they failed, you write those failures down. This is mandatory. This is an order. You don't get a choice. Oh, she's fine. No problem. Don't worry about her. Bull. You need to worry about her. Every patient's your baby. Treat every patient like you want them to get healthy. So these two statements, patient instructed to continue full-time wear for 1 week. You can ignore this, say yes, because if it's an Atlanta Tmd Institute patient, they're going to wear this. They must wear this soft guard until we get the Mora in. We want to get the Mora in as quickly as possible. The nice thing is that about 75% of the patients that wear this soft guard, they get a lot better. And so we don't have to rush and get that hard guard in. We should, because the hard guard really is the magic appliance. It is the magic appliance. It does incredible stuff. It takes care of the neck, the back. It just, people sleep better. It is an amazing appliance. So patient instructed to continue full-time wear for 1 more week. Say yes on all Atlanta Tmd Institute patients. But if it's not an Atlanta Tmd Institute patient and they have good joints and not too many problems, and you're working with a doc that dabbles in TMD, and they did great, they complied with everything, and they're doing good, then you tell them they can go to nighttime wear. They no longer have to wear it 24/7. But everyone has to wear it 24/7 the first week. Atlanta Tmd Institute patients, they have to wear it continually until they get their hard guard. Regular patients who don't really have much problem, they have complied well, they're doing very well, they go on to nighttime wear. So this little area is meant for doctors who are just regular GPs that dabble in TMD. They are not the specialists. And at their level, after their exam, they might make suggestions to go to various doctors. We don't do that at the Institute until certain times because it's critical. For example, allergies cause nasal swelling. Patient goes to the ENT. He's going to want to do surgery. He does the surgery. 6 months later, it's all swollen because the allergies were never taken care of because the patient did everything out of sequence. And we had a crazy patient do that. I'm not lying to you. I'm ready to scream. She's dramatizing how bad her life is. And she went to the friggin' allergist, not the allergist, what's her ENT? I'm like, wait a minute. She's jumping around without listening. She has no respect for me. You see what I'm saying? Because she's just dramatizing, acting like a sick person, wanting to be a sick person in front of her husband, and she just didn't do what I told her to do. You have to do a lot of these things at the correct time. You would never go to the physical therapist initially. Why? Because some patients at 6 weeks with the Mora, their neck gets better. Why would you go to the physical therapist if your neck's going to get better in 6 weeks? The only time that would happen is if you're in tremendous pain coming from your neck. But these various professionals, general MD, allergist, ENT, endocrinologist, physical therapist, massage therapist, chiropractor, or sleep MD, these are referrals from general dentists who are using this 6-week program as their primary treatment. And remember, we're a secondary or tertiary institution. We take failures. So I'm going to say 80% of the patients that they treat just with the soft guard are going to be much happier, and that's all they might want. But 20% are going to have problems, and then the doc says, gee, let's just refer it to the Atlanta Tmd Institute. You need a little more care than it's over my head, and I think you need to go someone who knows what they're doing more, however they approach the patient. But again, these referrals, professional referrals, are meant for a general dentist, not for the Atlanta Tmd Institute, because we do refer to these people, but we do them in specific times with specific patients, right, for specific reasons. And it's part of our extensive protocol and a very successful protocol in getting patients better. This form, the 1-week TMD soft guard examination form, results are presented to the dentist at the same time that you bring in the patient self-evaluation of phase 1 treatment. Both of those forms are together along with the Dentrix writing form whenever we are doing the POSG1 examination. All three are together. Please bring this form to the dentist. So you're going to see the patient, do the range of motion. Patient should have filled out the TMD patient self-evaluation form for phase 1 TMD treatment, and then you do the interview completely and fill out the form completely. You'll present both forms to the dentist at the same time, and of course, the Dentrix routing form, the Dentrix patient routing form, the Dentrix appointment routing form is also underneath all of this. This is very important. I think it's especially important because some TMD assistants blow off this and don't think it's important. They don't re-educate the patient. They don't really do a good interview. I'll go back in and I get very upset because I'll ask a few questions and find out that the patient was lying, but the TMD assistant didn't really care. TMD assistant didn't use tact and secrecy and basically do a great job. They did not do a great job. And patient hid things from the TMD assistant. The TMD assistant wasn't really aware of it or wasn't really concerned about finding this information. And it's critical. We've got to get them on the right, straight, and narrow path right from the beginning. Very important. A major rule is that all TMD patients are not allowed to leave without a TMD appointment, their next TMD appointment actually scheduled. Please do not violate this rule. Please do not tell me the patient told you to commit malpractice. Please do not give me excuses. I am going to argue with you and show you terrible, terrible consequences. People are human. You, however, are a professional. You don't let bad things happen to good people. Patients sometimes will leave without an appointment, not come in for 3 months. And they're going to say, that idiot dental assistant never offered me an appointment. And they're true. They did. The TMD assistant never insisted on another appointment. This is critical stuff, man. We don't want that to happen. It does happen. And it is extremely depressing. And it is extremely disheartening. And it makes me cry. And you can't violate this rule. So the patient says, well, I really can't schedule. And you say, well, okay, let me give you an appointment in 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks. This way, you can always break it, but at least you're on the book so we know to call you. Otherwise, we could disconnect and not follow up. And if the patient doesn't do that, you've got to report it to me, and I'll come in the room and have a discussion with the patient. Or if you're going to take all that responsibility on your head, not the patient, you're going to have to call that patient in a couple of days because it's your responsibility. Don't pawn it off to the patient. We've had some really 3 or 4 instances where patients have disappeared for 6 months. Then they come in having a problem and they get really, really angry and they say, the idiot assistant didn't give me an appointment. I didn't know how to come back. And I really feel sympathy for this patient because you didn't do your duty. You didn't take care of the patient. You never drop your kid off at the daycare center and not pick them up. So every patient gets scheduled a new appointment. So the TMD assistant schedules the next TMD appointment for this POSG1 patient. And this can be done like even before the doctor comes in. This can be done after the POSG1 interview, before the doctor comes in. You can get the next appointment on the books. Just make sure you know what the next appointment is and how important it is, because they can't just disappear for long periods of time. So if you don't pull the treatment work pans the day before, you're going to screw up. And you will screw up, and I will say you're an idiot. You'll say, Dr. P, don't talk like that. That is rude. And I'll say, stupid is as stupid does. And you'll say, I don't appreciate the way you're talking to me. And I'll say, this is nuts. You know, we're supposed to be about patience, not about relaxing, getting on your cell phone. It's about patience. So if only the lower alginate was taken at the first appointment, the TMD start, and we couldn't get the upper, and the upper alginate was not, for some reason, taken at the DSG-EEX appointment, then today's TMD visit was a POSG1, right? We're checking the Sofguard from last week and DXC upper. So we're going to be doing a upper diagnostic impression today. Any one of the assistants can do that. This TMD patient is next scheduled for JRT, usually in the morning. Right now, we only have one TMD assistant that knows how to do JRTs. So hopefully we'll have 2 or 3 trained, but there has to be a trained TMD assistant in the office for you to schedule a JRT. I hope you understand that. It's done by a trained TMD assistant under the supervision of the doctor. So you've got to schedule it with the trained TMD assistant. We do put it in the first column, but it's not technically done primarily by the dentist. It's done by the assistant, but it's a very important appointment, so we put it in the pad column. So if today we successfully got that upper impression and you completed the post-op Sofguard exam, then this TMD patient's next scheduled for a JRT in the morning in 3 to 7 days with a trained TMD assistant who knows how to do a JRT. So this gets confusing. You just have to remember, if we don't have upper and lower casts, master casts, we can't do a JRT. We got to relate relationships between 2 people or more than 2 people. You've got to have the upper and lower master cast relating to each other. So you have to have both of those in the pan the day before in order to do the JRT. That's why you have to pull the pans a day before. I hope this is not getting too confusing. You just remember, if a upper alginate was not taken at the first 2 appointments, we can't do a JRT. Don't schedule it, but schedule the DXC, because that's where we take that alginate. So you pull the pan, you see there's no upper alginate, there's no model, upper model, change that POSG 1 to a POSG 1/DXC, okay? So please listen carefully, because this can get confusing. So if only the lower alginate was taken at the first appointment, the TMD start, which is very often immediately after the CNT, but sometimes CNT patients will come back later. If only the lower alginate was taken at the first appointment, the TMD start, and the upper alginate was successfully taken at the DSG-EEX appointment, then today's visit should have been POSG 1/JRT. So you're going to be doing both the interview, the POSG 1 interview, right? And the JRT. You got a lot of stuff to do today. You need to stay with that patient. I hope you will appreciate my frustration when I see very distracted TMD assistants walking around, not planning anything, and then running over because they just can't focus. The POSG interview, form should be printed out before the patient arrives. The upper and lower model should be mounted to a Galletti articulator for the JRT before the patient arrives. You got a lot of stuff to do in an hour. You should be in the operatory. You should be prepared. Everything should be there and ready. You're a professional now. You're not just a kid in high school, right? You are a professional. You are caring for another person. You are ministering to the other person. You're in charge of that other person. You need to keep your act together. Very important. So when you look on the schedule and you see POSG1, JRT, that means that either at the first appointment, the TMD start, or the second appointment, the DSG-EEX, we got upper and lower alginates because you can't do a JRT unless you have an upper and lower model, which means you should have taken an upper and lower alginate, okay? So the next visit after the POSG1/JRT would be a DHG. This TMD patient is next scheduled, you next schedule this TMD patient for a DHG in 1 to 2 weeks. We prefer one in the PAD appointment book for 1 hour in the afternoons on either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, but not Monday or Friday. I'm not here on Friday. And on Monday, we make the appliances the day before, and we're not here on Sunday. So we can't deliver on Monday if we're making the appliance the day before. We're hoping to train you or one of the other assistants to make appliances. We used to have that, had a very good assistant, and I gave him to an associate. And the associate is so lucky, and this gentleman made all of my appliances, and I'm hoping you'll learn that. So again, whenever you see whenever a JRT is done, the next appointment would be a DHG, deliver hard guard. We want it in a week, whenever possible. It is a difficult procedure, so it's put into the PAD book, its actual treatment book, right? On Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, only one DHG per afternoon until we get someone making these things, because I stay. It takes me about an hour to make a hard guard. So if you put 2, I'm there for 2 hours after work. And I'm old. I don't need to do that. You're just abusing me, and maybe you don't like me. I don't know. When we get someone making the appliances, it won't matter. You could put 3 or 4 of them, in a row. I don't care, as long as somebody else is making them. But typically, I'll get done with patients at 5:30, write my notes. I'll be done at 6. I want to go home, but I have a hard guard to make. So I don't get out until 7. If you do 2, I won't get out until 8. And that's mean, because it takes me about an hour to get home. It's 9 o'clock, and I go to bed at 9. So I go to bed, I wake up, I do some reading and writing, and I'm back at work again. And I have no life because of you. And that's, I start crying, and I shouldn't be crying. But this is the protocol related to the next appointment. Whenever you see JRT, the next is DHG. So I'm just going to beat this down. You've got to have upper and lower master models to do a JRT. Got it? Which means at any of the first 2 or 3 visits, the upper alginate has to be taken. The doctor generally takes the lower alginate at the start, but not the upper. There's usually not enough time. We try to, but we can't always do it. Therefore, at the second visit, any of the dental assistants can take the upper opposing, but it has to be scheduled, and you have to have a dental assistant morning meeting, and you have to have someone assigned to this patient who can take that upper alginate, and it must be done efficiently. And no one should force the dental assistant to do this job. The dental assistant should take the alginate without being asked to do it, because that's what the scheduled appointment is. And that dental assistant signed up for that appointment, agreeing to do the appointment, and basically certifying that dental assistant can do everything in that appointment. You would not accept the appointment. You would not accept supervising an appointment, agreeing to be the assistant for that appointment, if you can't do the procedures shown in the appointment. That's ridiculous. It is. And sometimes people say, well, no, someone else put me in there. And what I try to say to you is, no, no. If your name's on there, you can't do that procedure. You need to say you can't do it. You don't want someone doing brain surgery in your kid who never did it before because they just happened to be in the OR at that time. That's bull. Come on. So again, any dental assistant can take an opposing alginate. The DXU, the diagnostic upper alginate, it's scheduled for 1 hour in the assistant appointment book in the mornings. This is a terrible waste of time. Why? We should have done that alginate at the second visit. When we did the DSG/EX, we should have got like the CAT scan, the photos, and the upper alginate. And when this doesn't happen, I'm just going to say directly to you, it's because we have a TMD assistant who is not very organized, doesn't plan, is not looking at the schedule. That's all it is. This is a terrible waste of time with very poor planning, and forces our TMD patient to come back to our office more than necessary because the TMD assistant is just not planning and looking out for the patient's best interests. We have learned that patients refer other patients when they are able to. Patients generally won't give their own appointment cards away. But they will give a second one if they have it in the pocketbook. So give the TMD patient to, and I'm going to stop and say this, Atlanta Tmd Institute business cards. We rent space in the Atlanta Dental Group building. We are not the Atlanta Dental Group. Don't give patients the Atlanta Dental Group cards. What are you, nuts? I don't understand. I've tried, I got in an argument with someone the other day, and she goes, oh yeah, everybody else taught me this. Everybody says I can do wrong. Everybody does wrong, so I do wrong. No. We are the Atlanta Tmd Institute, and we're hoping in the next year or two to get the heck out of that building and have our own building, right? For only TMD patients, only TMD staff, right? And I don't want to get any of my referring dentists worried that I'm going to steal their patients, because I'm not going to. I won't. But it could give them the impression that I'm giving them general dental cards, indirectly trying to solicit their patients. I don't want that ever to be on my face, on my heart, on my soul. So don't give Atlanta Dental Group cards to Atlanta Tmd Institute patients. And always write the time and the date of the next TMD appointment on the card. I have had patients come a week early, a day early. One came from Warner Robins, just a very long drive. And unfortunately, I had 3 or 4 patients at the same time. And normally I will do everything I can, especially if they're coming from such a long distance. It's like 2 hours. Round trip 4. And they made a mistake. But I couldn't help them that day because there were too many patients for me to do so. And very fortunately, she pulled her card out, and sure enough, it was on Wednesday, not a Tuesday. They came a day early. All right. So thanks for doing this course, spending time with me, learning this information. Please, if you have not done so, go ahead and do the video, the 6-week TMD course, the 6-week TMD program, which is also on the Atlanta Tmd Institute YouTube. You'll be able to go through that whole thing and learn all about it. So that way, when you do the evaluation, along with the form, you'll have a little richer understanding and know a little bit more, and perhaps even answer questions better than you could have. The Atlanta Tmd Institute is formed to educate dental and medical professionals in TMD, develop knowledge of TMD disorders to successfully treat patients suffering with TMD. And we're located at 1640 Piedmont Ave, Atlanta, Georgia, 30324. Our website, www.atlantatmdinstitute.com. Thank you.